Hello, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the webinar, Acumatica Project Accounting. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Michaela Terenzio, the Customer Marketing Manager at Acumatica, and I'll be your moderator today. Joining me, I have Eric Moreau, Director of Partner Enablement and Pre-Sales at Acumatica. And together we'll go through first an overview of Acumatica Project Accounting, followed by a product demo and then some Q&A. Before we get started, just a couple of housekeeping items. At any time during today's webinar, you can go ahead and chat us a question that you might think of in the Q&A chat box in your console. Any questions that we're not able to get to, either via chat during the call or in the Q&A section at the end, we'll reach out and follow up with you one-on-one. So go ahead, don't be shy in chatting us those questions. And also this webinar will be recorded and available in an on-demand version we will send to you via email after the call. One final thing before we get started today, we want to just give you a quick poll to get a pulse of who is on the call with us this morning. So if you could just chat into that poll that has popped up in your console, what brings you to join us this morning, that'll just help to give us a little bit of a context of who we've got on the call. All right, thank you everybody for being here today, and I hope that you enjoy our presentation. And without any further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Eric. Take it away.
Great. Thank you very much, Michaela. Good morning. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Eric Moreau. I'm the Director of Partner Enablement and Pre-Sales here at Acumatica. I'm very excited to show you the project accounting solution. I've been on board here for about 2.5 years, and I've spent about the last 2 years or so working in the project solution. So been in technology for about 18 years. I started off after a few years in the service in college in accounting, so public accounting for 4 years, and then on the internal side. So I really love Acumatica, and specifically I really like what Projects brings to the table, the fully integrated solution. Just a few slides before we get into the demo. When we think about Acumatica and project accounting specifically, it's fully integrated with Acumatica ERP. ERP is Enterprise Resource Planning. So the real-time integration ensures that your managers and staff are viewing the most up-to-date information available as it relates to your projects. So on the right-hand side, I'm not going to go through line, but I just want you to be aware that these are all integration points when you think of Acumatica project accounting. Now, the other thing you'll see here is we have the mobility integration. I'm not going to be able to get into mobility today. I think we're going to run out of time. But I just want you to realize that pretty much everything that you're seeing today, you can also manage through your mobile device as well. So very powerful. And what I like about it, because I'm not technically strong, the ability to set up mobility is very easy. Just some examples of types of projects here that you can manage from within Acumatica. You can manage internal projects, fixed price, time and materials, work in progress, as well as a mix of each of these. Now, again, I'm kind of going to go at a little bit of a good clip to get through this so we can get to the demo. But as Michaela had pointed out, you will be receiving a recorded version of this presentation, and you can look at this slide again. So these are types of projects, and then some of the industries that we would focus on when we're looking at the project accounting solution. So I'll just give you a second to take a look there. Okay. All right. And now with that, let's go ahead and get into the demo. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. It takes just a moment here, and then we will go ahead and get started. And Michaela, I will ask you to confirm that you can see my Acumatica login screen.
Yes, you're good.
Okay, very good. All right, so as you can see here, when I log into Acumatica as a project manager, one of the first things it's going to take me to is my project manager dashboard. As a project manager, this is the things that are going to be important to me, so I'm going to look at these straight away. We have a number of role-based dashboards within Acumatica. I'll show you a couple of them today. From the project manager dashboard, I can immediately see what my active projects are, I can see who my underutilized employees are, which is obviously going to be a little bit of a concern. And then I can also see my various tasks. I have 5 tasks open, 4, unfortunately, which are overdue. And again, coming down the right-hand side, I can see budget to actual comparisons. And if I had, for example, time entries to approve, I would see them here as well. And then as you imagine, I could see, for example, all my overdue, my list of all of my projects if I wanted to, and then I could drill back from here if I wanted to see them. Another example is the consultant dashboard. So let's take a look at the project consultant. So now I'm changing my hat a little bit. So this is the dashboard that the consultant would look in and see each morning when they logged in, so they could see this from their mobile device. By the way, each of these dashboards can be pushed out to the mobile device very quickly and managed directly from there and have the same look and feel as that you see here. But again, because I'm a project consultant, again, I want to focus on my overdue tasks as well as my assigned projects. And then if I happen to have open timesheets, I'm going to be able to see that here as well. Now, a great place to start off the project accounting demo is in the project flow. As you can see right in the middle, the most important thing of what we're doing today is tracking everything through the general ledger. All right. So on the left-hand side of the equation, you can see that we have purchase orders that are going to be reflected on our projects that we'll show you today. We'll talk about time entry as well as expense reports. All right. So these are 2 perfect examples of things that you could do from your mobile. You could manage time and create expense reports on your mobile device. All right. So we have other distribution type transactions, and again the ability to manage purchase receipts and AP bills. All this information will flow into the general ledger, but then it also at the same time, real time, will flow into your projects as well. On the right side of the equation, folks, what you're seeing here are the items that are associated with billing. All right, so we maintain billing rules within Acumatica, as we saw in the earlier slide, whether it's going to be a fixed fee, time and materials, internal, in which case there would be no billing rule, but nonetheless. We also have a really interesting tool here called the Pro Forma invoice. And back in my days in technology, when I was a project manager, I really would have loved this feature because what it allows me to do, it allows me to generate an invoice just like it was going to the client, but it allows me to edit that transaction. So if I had a new consultant who billed 30 hours, but because he was new, maybe we should only bill 20 hours. So I can edit that before it actually goes to the general ledger or before it goes to invoice. It prevents me from having to do transactions later on, or adjustments, if you will. Okay. So again, we'll touch on a number of these items throughout the course. But today, I also want to start off by showing you the integration with CRM. So in order to do that, I'm going to use my universal search here to call up an opportunity. Now, in this case, it's for New York International Beauty School. And if you look here, it's an opportunity. So the types of things you would expect to see, what's the dollar amount associated with the opportunity, and what are the activities or the touches that have taken place on this opportunity. Now, my focus today is not to take you through CRM, but I do want to talk to you about the ability to create a project quote. So if I go to the quote tab, the first thing you'll see here, folks, is quote number 8, and it has an amount of $60,000, which is driving the amount of our opportunity. Now, I have a second quote. In this case, the client says they're going to take on more work. Look, I want a little bit of a reduction here. How about if I take on more work, and then you folks can do your piece, and I'll do some of it as well, so take more responsibility. But look what happened. As soon as I did that, I marked quote number 9 as primary. It updated my opportunity, which is now going to be reflective, to all of my management reporting. So that's how easy it is to work within the quotes within Acumatica. Now, let's go ahead and drill back, and you'll see that I did make number 8 as my primary. So we've got a carrying value of $60,000 there. All right. One of the first things I note straight away is up in the top right-hand corner, right, margin. I'm going to be able to, because I built out this quote, I'm going to see straight away whether or not I'm going to make any money on this project. Now, probably nobody on this line here, but I've heard of other situations where folks have gone into a project and they never really knew if they were going to make any money or not. They were just throwing some hours up in the air, and hopefully it would stick and they'd make a little bit of money. So with Acumatica, proactively, you're going to see your margins straight away. Well, let's see where that comes from. Before we see exactly where it comes from, let's just take a look at other items that you can see on here, your project tasks, all right, and then the estimation. Okay. And by the way, when I built out this project quote, I was able to use a project template, which I'll show you a little bit later, but I was able to use a project template to build out this quote because it's a project that we do on a regular basis. All right, so what we'll see here is we have our labor items. So I've got senior, junior, consultant, and then project manager, the number of hours, and then the unit rate. Now, as a concession for allowing us to do the entire project as opposed to allowing New York International Beauty School to run the project or help out, we're going to reduce the project manager rate and watch the impact on margin. So we're going to change this. We'll say, you know what, rather than $150 for project management, I'm only going to charge you $125, which is the same as my senior consultant. So once I've changed that, I've saved it, and now my margin has been updated. As you would expect, my margin went down a little bit because we reduced the price. But that's how easy it is to work within the projects, within opportunities. Now, what good is it going to be if we can't push this over to our project accounting solution? That's about what we're going to do here, folks. Before I do that, just take note. In the top right-hand corner, I have notes and I have files that my salesperson has compiled during that sales process, right? So we're going to actually push those items over as well. So I'm going to go ahead and submit the quote. So when I submit the quote, it basically locks it down. It's now become gospel. Okay. From here, I can actually email this over to the client if I wanted to. All right. I could edit it. So let's say I did need to make a change here. I could edit and start to edit quote and change the dollars or what have you. Noting again, I'd have all my history, right? Because we had quote number 8, quote number 9, and we could create quote number 10 if needed. So without any further ado, let me go ahead and convert this over to a project. So we're going to go ahead and convert to project. And now I have a number of choices that I could make. I could actually copy the notes to the project. I could also copy files to the project to go ahead and click OK. So again, talk about a great resource. I know when I was back in the services days, there was never a good transfer between sales and services. So now services immediately, because I now have a new project, right? Congratulations, you're now in the project accounting solution of Acumatica. I now have that same information, the notes, the files. I could have brought over the activity if I wanted to. I could have brought everything onto the project, so my project manager has complete visibility into that at this point. Okay, so again, just to confirm what we saw, the tasks come over. There's my revenue budget, all right, based on those line items, the cost budget, all right, based on the what we had determined there. All right, and actually let's go back on the revenue budget, and you should see the price. All right, looks like I don't have oh yeah, there it is, so 125. Remember, I changed that, and there it is. And then let's take a look at the balances tab, and you recognize the 58,125 from our opportunity, and those are my costs associated. So very tightly integrated, as you can see, very easy to manage. Okay, so the next area that I want to talk about, now that we've talked about CRM, I want to talk about what an existing project looks like, because I think it's going to help you see the capabilities within Acumatica. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually drill back on my active projects from here, and my pet project is TMR03. So we're going to spend a few minutes looking at TMR03. One of the first things you'll see here is the summary tab. So if I come down, I can see whether or not this project allows for change orders. All right. In this case, it's a project-by-project decision, and TMR03 does not allow for change orders. Maybe it's a fixed fee, or perhaps, who knows. But now I can see it's a time and material project. Oh, and there's that create pro forma on billing is a decision-by-decision or project-by-project decision as well. What other modules do I want this project to be able to integrate with? So, for example, if there is no inventory, I would remove the sales order and, well, maybe not the purchase order because you could do subcontracting, but maybe inventory items. So this project would not be exposed to those areas. Here's a number of tasks, right? My revenue budget, and let me go ahead and summarize that for you, make it a little bit cleaner, easier for you to see. So now I can see my original budgeted amount as well as my actual. And sure enough, there's the 22,424 that's actually appearing in the top of the window. Margin's kind of rough, 16%. Maybe we'll figure that out here in just a little bit. There's my cost budget, which again I'm going to summarize. Okay, and specifically here, folks, what I want to point out is that the original committed amount, that's actually zero because I have a purchase order that I'm going to assign to this project so that you can see the impact. All right, again, we're on our balances tab. So again, you should recognize the 22,424 and the 18,800 is coming from the summation of these three items. Now, if I ever wanted to see what makes up travel and expenses, for example, I can highlight the row. I choose View Transactions, and I now have visibility into the specific transaction. So I can see I got Marriott, United Air, Avis Rental Car. Okay, so we can go ahead and close that down for now. Okay, or not, hold on a second. Yep, let me check that. Okay, sorry about that, folks. Okay, all right. So then this is the balances tab, which we'll see in a few moments. Then the 41.8 represents WIP. So it's transactions sitting on the balance sheet. As we saw, we had time and material projects, so work is being incurred, right? So in the meantime, it's going to sit up on the balance sheet as we enter that time. And this is, again, what I call WIP, all right? So that's probably why our margin is so low, because it's 16%, and we have yet to bill for these hours here, all right? As earlier I talked about commitments. Folks, think of commitments as your purchase orders that are being assigned to the project. In this case, you'll see that it's on hold, so let's drill back and see what that purchase order looks like. So I'm going to drill back on purchase order number 1189, all right? I can immediately see it's for labor junior, all right? My cost, my hours, 10 and 50 is the 500. It's going to TMR03, and it's going to go to junior consultant. So at this point, folks, what I'm going to do is remove the hold, and I'm going to approve the transaction. Something else that I could have done from the mobile phone is approve this purchase order while I'm out in the field if I needed to. Let's go ahead and refresh. Okay, and now if I go back onto my cost budget tab, there it is. There's the original committed amount for that particular line item. And a commitment is, again, it's future expenses. What are we trying to do? We're trying to limit surprises, right? The one thing I don't want to do is think, hey, I'm making all kinds of money on this, and then I get an AP invoice for $4,000 that could have some significant impact on my budget, on my project. So here we have the $500, and if I remove this checkbox and just scroll over to the right, you'll actually see. By the way, don't get overwhelmed by all these columns. We can remove those if we needed to, all right? But if I scroll to the right here a bit, and all right, and if I scroll up, there it is. There's the 500, the committed amount, dollars, and quantity of 10. Other things that we could see on the project are my invoices. So let's go ahead. Because we're a fully integrated solution, I can drill back. I can see the actual invoice that's associated here. And there's the 22,424 that we can recognize. And then just again to confirm, here's what the journal entry would look like as the project billing takes place. And there again is the 22,424 that we've seen a couple times before. We've seen it here, and then we've seen it on our balances tab as well. Look at the change orders tab. Okay, well, we don't have any change orders. Matter of fact, it's actually grayed out. And why is that? Well, if you remember, from a control standpoint, this project does not allow change orders, so that's why it's grayed out here. All my activity history, as you could imagine, and then employees. What I like about this tab, it's only going to allow these employees to enter time against a project. And why is that helpful? Well, if you remember earlier, we had underutilized employees. Maybe they're just looking for a project to charge time to, and they're not going to be able to do that unless they appear in this list. Another way in which Acumatica can help you generate revenue is when you bill for equipment. So think of equipment as just another resource that you're going to be able to bill out to your client. All right, so that was kind of an overview of an existing project. What I want to do now is take you into a project that's getting ready to kick off and see what that process looks like. So let's go back into projects. Again, it's not going to show up on my dashboard yet because it's inactive. And it's going to be project number 11. Okay, so project number 11, I can see that it's in planning mode. And again, looks very similar to the project that we just saw. There is no transactions yet, obviously. So here we have our tasks. Oh, by the way, let me talk to you a little bit more about the template. As I mentioned earlier, we have the ability to create, when the projects are going to be very similar in nature, I can create a template. So if I wanted to drill back, I could see what that template looks like, and this is where that information is pulling from. So here I have my various tasks, my revenue budget of $96,000, my cost budget, all right, and then again, my default employees if I wanted to. So then once that template's been created, I can go to create the project using the template. All this information will default in. But now I can edit this. So if I don't want this project to look at inventory, I can remove that checkbox. Or if there's no purchase orders, I can remove that checkbox. So what it allows you to do, it allows you to tighten up that project and expose where you want it exposed or not exposed to other areas within Acumatica. Okay, so we look at the tasks tab here. So, the cost budget and the balances. Okay, well, the balances is blank, so let's go ahead and take this item off of hold. All right, then we're going to go ahead and save that, and you see my balances are defaulting in from these two previous tabs, cost and revenue. All right, so in order to continue with this project, one of the first things I need to do is I need to activate my tasks. So I'm going to go ahead and activate my task, and boom, they were all activated. The other thing you'll see here is I have a planned start date and a planned end date. And why is that going to be important? Well, when I'm doing my forecasting, I want to make sure that I have the scheduled work taking place in the proper period. So this is implementation. If I recall, it's running February through January of 21. So I'm going to be able to see that allocated accordingly when I do my budget forecasting. So with that, let's go ahead and take a look at the project budget forecast. So I go ahead and choose project budget forecast. All right, revision is a required field. So anything with a red star in Acumatica is a required field. Description is not, so we'll go ahead and skip that. But rather than just get expenses, I want to get all items in here. So you'll see now that I have revenue as well as my expenses. So the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and generate my periods. Okay, and well, if you remember, implementation doesn't start until October of this year, so that's why it immediately jumped forward to October. Meanwhile, everything else is being spread equally. Okay, so I just did that for demonstration purposes. You can fine-tune your tasks very nicely, but again, let's look at the monthly billing is $96,000. Okay, the other thing that we can do, folks, here, and the reason we're getting these red deltas is because we have not allocated out the dollars. So let's go ahead and distribute the dollars out. I'm going to accept all of these defaults. Go ahead and click OK. And you'll now see that all the dollars have been allocated out, including, let me see, $8,000 a month for monthly billing. Now, in this case, we know that the project's probably going to run a little bit late, or not late, but maybe we don't need implementation hours, 100 of them in October. So I'm going to put 60 hours in here, and I now have a delta of 40 hours. Now, I could actually create a change order and make that 40 hours go away, or I can allocate it out. I'm going to put it on the back end of the project and do 140 hours here, and we're on our way. So the delta is gone, so I can go ahead and save that. All right, so with that, let's go ahead and take a look at the project. What I want to do is we're going to actually build that project. So here I am in project number 11. It's active. All right, my balances tab, I don't have any transactions yet. So let's go ahead and run project billing. All right, so it's going to generate an invoice here for me. Okay, now what it did, it looked at the project. Remember, it started in February, so it's going to bill the first month was in March. All right, so March 1st is the first billing for $8,000. And Acumatica release means post to the general ledger. If you're using inventory, it's going to update inventory, post to the project. All right, so now if I refresh this by scrolling off once to the left, once to the right, you'll now see that I have $8,000 in costs. Scratch that, $8,000 in revenue. All right, so I've got $8,000 in revenue. If I go to the revenue budget tab, we're going to start to see how it's building out here. Gives me my percent complete at this point as well. All right. The other thing that we can do, folks, is actually enter time against this project. Now, Acumatica has a time and expense module built into it as well. So again, whether my users do it through their mobile device or if they come in here to enter time, they're going to be able to do so very easily. But I want to show you another way in which we could bring information into Acumatica, and that's through the import by scenario, where you can actually import data into Acumatica. So what I want to do is I want to call up the import scenario for activities. All right, and there it is, employee time activities. And just for relation, let's go ahead and take a look at an Excel spreadsheet that's been created. This represents all the employees' time. Maybe it's coming from, well, your projects probably aren't being done by a time clock, but that's one example. Or, again, if you're using some other time tracking device, you can compile all that information and bring it into Acumatica very quickly. So in this case, it's going to be Jane, Get It Done, or Cashine's time. All right, so we can close the Excel spreadsheet for now. But in order to do that, I'm going to go ahead and upload a file version. All right, and there it is, number 11. I'm going to go ahead and upload. Okay, and then I'm going to prepare my data. All right, there's all the time. All right, and if you scroll over here, you recognize there's Jane and the other employees. Now I'm going to import. So while this is importing, it's going to take about 17 seconds. While this is importing, I just want to, again, remind you that they could do this through the mobile device. They could do it through the employee portal here. This is just demonstration A to show you how easy it is to bring data into Acumatica, and not just time activities, but anywhere in Acumatica. If you have to import data, this is how easy it is, okay? 19 seconds, I was off just a little bit. So here I'm going to go into time and expenses, and if I look at employee time activities, all right, well, there's no time there, but that's because I was working with Jane. So let's go ahead and take a look at Jane, and we'll see that we actually have her time entries for that week, all right? And so we have 8 hours a day. That's 40 hours. Now, from here, I'm going to remove this hold. And again, this is a decision. I'm showing it because I want you to show the control that you will have at time entry because it's a very sensitive item. I could have also sent that off for approval if I wanted to. But for now, what I'm going to do is just going to go ahead and call up Jane Doe. Actually, you know what? Let me change this. I'll just push this period out here. Okay, push that out to the 25th. All right, and there's her 5 days of labor. Okay, now if I'm recording all of this time, I can just click the header and process all. I'm hand-holding this through on purpose so you can see the impact on our project. So the processing 5 is done. What we're going to do now is I'm going to go back onto that dashboard, and you'll now see we have 11 projects because we kicked off project 11. Okay, and let's drill back onto project number 11. And now you'll see that we have the $8,000 in revenue that we incurred a few moments ago, and just recently is the $2,000 in cost budget. And again, if I wanted to highlight here, just to say we have that view transactions, I showed it to you on the balances. From here, I can actually view transactions, and I can actually see the labor that was compiled by Jane. Now, again, just for clarification, there were 3 other employees. I only processed Jane's payroll at this point because, again, I just want you to be able to wrap your arms around it. Another thing that we have here, if I look, I can go actually into this report, project budget forecast details report, and I can narrow my search here for project number 11 only. All right, I believe it's going to be one of my. Okay, there it is. Develop a new online learning. All right, this is project number 11. Okay. And if I scroll now, again, look, there's the labor. And this is, again, a little bit overwhelming because there's so much information. We can narrow it down. But what I want to do, if I hit the page over, there's the hours that we just incurred for Jane. All right, and then there's the revenue that we recorded as well. So that's one example of where we can see the data as a result of the project. All right, folks, I know I'm going very fast. We got just a few more minutes. I want to show you just a couple of projects, and then we're going to get, or a couple of reports that I like, and then we're going to get to Q&A. So just bear with me. One of my favorites is the project summary report. I'm going to run it for TMR02. I know I got some data out there. All right, what do I got here? Labor, material, subcontractor, budget to actual, and any overages or underages that I may have, as well as the invoices, outstanding purchase orders. And again, this is a different project than TMR03. That's why the dollar amount is different. Another report that I like is the, I'm going to run off my favorites, is the project transaction register. And again, if I run that for 02, all right, and you'll see how I can now see for each of my tasks, I can see the transactions, task 101, project management, installation, all right, 401 materials and projects. I can see all of that. And then finally, actually, let's go back on to TMR03. There's a report on there that I wanted to show you that I can actually run directly from the report. So, Michaela, I'm about 90 seconds away from getting to Q&A. So if you want to prepare for that, grab a couple of questions. Underneath reports, I can run a project balance report. And again, here's a summary of what's going on by task, and budgeted versus actual, revised, etc. Okay? So again, just another example of the report. And with that, I want to take a quick look at my notes, and I'm going to invite Michaela in to run a couple of questions by.
All right. Thank you, Eric, very much for that demo. Covering a lot of ground there in not a lot of time. So I think everyone is excited, ready to learn more. Anyone, if you do have a question at this time, please go ahead and enter that into the Q&A chat box at the bottom of your console. We'll get to as many as we can in the next couple minutes here. but we will follow up with you after the webinar if we're not able to answer your question right now. Okay, Eric, the first question that I found here is, how much control do you have when working with the pro forma invoice?
All right, very good. Just again, to reinforce on the project flow, we're talking about on the billing side of the equation, we have that pro forma invoice that's going to allow me to look at a transaction before we actually post it and release it to the project. So in this case, I think TMR03, I think that's pro forma billing, so let's go ahead and take a look at that. I'll show you TMR03. Yeah. So create pro forma on billing. So if I go to run project billing at this point, unlike project number 11, it went directly to the invoice, correct? Well, what's happening here, it's going to the pro forma invoice. From here, folks, I can go to the time and materials tab, and I recognize that Casheen is a new employee, and we're about to invoice for $1,600 for this particular task. Well, again, she's new. I'm going to defer some of that until I get it figured out and see if she really, billed for $1,000 worth of work. So when I change that amount to invoice, look what happens. The status is going to change. Now I have the ability to hold remainder, and it will flush through to next billing period. I can write off the remainder, write off 600, or I'm going to write off the entire line item. So for me, I'm going to go ahead and hold the remainder. I don't want to lose that money. I'm going to take it off of hold, and I'm going to release that transaction. All right? That's the invoice. Nothing has hit the project yet at this point. If I wanted to, I can then see the, release. Yep, I have not released the invoice, so if I drill back here, here's the invoice, all right? And again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and release this transaction, and you'll now see that the project has been updated to reflect that. But the main thing, and to follow up on the question, is the pro forma invoice allows me to edit before it actually posts through to the general ledger. So if I go back here, close my pro forma, all right, and then we go back on TMR03, and all right, look at the balances tab there. All right, see how the $41,000 is gone? Oh, by the way, look what happened to our margin. Our margin increased significantly because we were actually able to bill that labor that was sitting on the in the WIP on the balance sheet, so to speak. Okay, very good. Sorry, that's a long-winded question, but there is a lot of stuff I wanted to cover, and a long-winded answer to a short question. Sorry about that. Go ahead, please.
All right, great. Thank you, Eric. The next question that I have here is, do I have to activate all project tasks at the same time?
Activate tasks at all time. So let me see, number 11, let me see if I can show you what we did there. I think I did activate all tasks at once. But yeah, so what you could have done, let's say that, well, implementation is going to take place down the road, right? So I could actually put that in planning, or maybe the learning or the solutioning is not ready to kick off yet, so we can actually change that status to put it back into planning if I wanted to. So then I can have different items here, and what's nice about this, it prevents people from entering time against this task until it has become enabled. So absolutely, you do not need to activate all of your tasks at once, and again, provides for a great control so people aren't entering time to tasks that they should not be. Conversely, when a task is done, you can actually close it as well. Okay, so now it's completed. You don't have people entering time to a completed task. All right, go ahead.
All right, great. And I think we probably only have time for one more question. And I know that there's more questions out there. So for everyone else, we will still follow up with you. Thanks for your questions. So Eric, the last question is this solution suitable for construction industry?
Actually, very good, yes. So we do have an edition called the Acumatica Construction Edition, and it was built off of this core product. So we've had the Construction Edition for, I think, just over 2 years now. It's getting great success, but it does have things specific to the construction industry, things like AIA billing and retainage. So if you do have interest in construction, then be sure to let us know, and then we can do a deeper dive around the Acumatica Construction Edition. Sounds like I'm turning it back over to Michaela for wrap-up. Everybody, I appreciate your time today. Hopefully I didn't go too fast. If I did, again, let us know. I'll be glad to drill down on specifics with you at any point in time. Michaela?
All right. Thank you so much, Eric, for that great presentation, giving us a taste of everything project accounting in a quick 30-minute overview here. And thanks, everyone, for joining us on the call today, for all of your great engagement and questions. And again, we will follow up with you to, get all of those additional answers out for you and the next level of information that you're looking for. If you're interested in learning more about Acumatica, we do have additional webinars coming out on a variety of topics, so you can stay tuned to the Acumatica.com webinars page on our site to look for the latest. And with that, thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Have a fantastic day.